If you could see some gruesome, horrible ghosts that no one else can see, what would you do? You'd have to pretend to not see them, fight them off, and protect your friend who is always in danger. Today, I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the ghosts in Mieruko-Chan. Miko here is just your average high school student. She lives at home with her mother and her brother. One morning, as she stares at the window, brushing her teeth, she sees a handprint on the mirror, but she doesn't make much out of it. She has no idea that her world is about to change. As she leaves for school, her brother warns her to take an umbrella because the weatherman said it would rain, but she decides not to, because she can always just buy one if she needs it. She's gonna learn just how bad of a decision that was. At school, Miko's best friend, well-endowed Hana, runs into her, but when she is not surprised and guesses who it is correctly, Hana asks why. She says it's because of the squish from her large melons. While they're catching up in the hallway, some random girl shows up and tells them to get out of the way. Remember that girl's face? You're going to need it. They step out of the way, then this weird girl stops and turns around, and she stares at them for a few minutes too long. Just when things are beginning to get a little awkward, she turns around and walks away. In class, Miko looks out the window and sees a baseball rolling in the field on its own. But before that, Miko and Hana leave the class at break time for lunch. Hana is hungry again, and she thinks it's just because she has a good metabolism. Miko thinks she should be more concerned by how much food she consumes. She stares at the door because she thought she saw someone there. When she goes to the toilet, she hears the sound like someone is in the next stall. But when she comes out to check, no one's there. Now, because school at this point is closed, Miko walks Hana off to a junction. After she leaves, Miko realizes, oh shoot, her new meme key holder has fallen off her bag. Then she makes the very wrong decision to go to school alone and search for it. Seriously, it's just a fancy chain, there's no need to go back. She arrives back at school, and although it is completely empty, she's not bothered at all. She finds the chain under a desk and quickly turns to leave. But that's when the light flickers for the first time. Miko ignores it and heads back out. And that's when her brother's warning came true. It starts to rain, and she gets drenched in the rain, running back to the bus station. And that's where everything changes. As she stands at the bus station waiting for the next bus, she sends a message to Hana about how she got stuck in the rain and yada yada, but the picture she sent kept re-entering her phone as a new picture again and again and again and again and again and again. And then she started hearing a voice repeating the same phrase over and over and over, and the pictures flood her phone. Slow fast, then it seems like the face starts to change until she sees a very scary black ghost looking at her from her picture. She gets scared and throws her phone away, but when she picks the phone back up, everything's gone back to normal. Hana has replied to her message, and all of the repeating pictures are gone. She thinks she's really tired. She rubs her face with her hands, and as soon as she looks up, she sees a hideous ghost giant staring at her and asking, "Can you see me?" But then Miko proves that she has balls of steel because she absolutely ignores the crap out of the ghost and pretends not to see it. She looks for the bus while the ghost keeps asking, "Can you see me? Can you see me?" When it enters into her line of sight again, she turns to her phone and pretends to be responding to Hana. She's so calm that she fools the ghost into thinking she can't see it. It turns around and walks away and disappears. And then it all comes out. Miko finally freaks out, and she is glad it's over. I feel really bad for Miko, but here's how she should have avoided it. The multiverse theory states that every choice we take branches out into thousands of possibilities, creating new worlds with every decision. That's how I know there could have been a world where Miko never saw any ghost. But how do we make that world this world? Simple, make a few changes. First thing I would have changed, just take the darn umbrella. If she took the umbrella when her brother said she should have, she wouldn't have taken so long to the bus station, and when time and chance is involved, every change can branch out into a different outcome. So, by not getting to the bus station at the time when the ghost was physically there, the chances of that ghost traumatizing her phone and causing her to see it are drastically reduced. The second choice is obvious. Don't go back to school alone after school is over. Every anime fan who has watched one horror movie knows. Don't go to the spooky school alone after school's over. And this includes Miko, because she was watching a horror movie at the start of the anime. What's so important about a meme key holder that she couldn't let it wait one more day? Sure had the money to buy another one if she wanted to. There's nothing to make her go back to school to get it. I think the meme thing fell off on purpose because a ghost was trying to get her attention. If she ignored it like I would have done, if none of those things happened, then Miko would not have seen any ghost to date. Whew, when she gets home, her mother's working late and her brother has a sleepover, so she's all alone. While brushing her teeth, she sees the same handprint she saw in the morning and wipes it away again. But as she raises her head back to the mirror, she sees something. Thing that has been making the handprints. Miko puts on a poker face and ignores the ghost again. She washes her face, but it's still there. Finally, it leaves, and Miko decides to use the trick she learned from a horror movie. She grabs some salt and hopes it wards off any ghosts, and then she lays down to go to sleep, but then something draws her attention. She lifts up the sheets and sees a ghost lying in her bed right on her stomach. When she wakes up, everything's back to normal. But when Hana comes to greet her in all of her her etchy glory. As usual, Miko freaks out because she doesn't know who's behind her. Her happiness that things are back to normal because while she's talking with Hana, a new ghost shows up by phasing through the wall on the 3rd floor. Miko stares at the ghost, but Hana, who's directly opposite to her, wonders why Miko is staring at her, and that's how Miko learns not everybody can see it. When she doesn't respond, the ghost disappears. Hana overhears some girls talking in the changing room about a new horror movie showing on TV. She gets super scared when they talk about a severed head in a changing room, and Miko learns that she cannot tell Hana about what she's seeing because Hana can't handle horror. Hana asks Miko to open up her locker because now she's petrified. Miko gets worried for a second but thinks, that's not possible. She opens the locker door and then sees a freaking head on top of the locker. Holy shit! She ignores it until Hana asks her to help her get her phone from inside. She raises her hand to grab it and the ghost screams really loud, but as usual, she somehow ignores it. When they enter the class, Miko learns that there are ghosts all over the school. And that's not all. There's a perverted ghost grabbing Hana right now. She quickly pushes Hana's locker away and asks her to take her to the nurse's office. She thinks she's gotten rid of it until she turns around to look at her, and yep, it's still there doing its thing. Miko tries to get rid of the ghost by using alcohol and a disinfectant, but it doesn't work. Then Hana gets a little freaky with Miko and pretending to check her heartbeat, not important. But what is important is when the beautiful nurse arrives. And she's even bigger than you-know-who. And that's when we learn that sometimes you don't need alcohol or salt to beat a ghost. You just need someone with bigger you-know-whats. Because the ghost gives up on Hana and goes straight for the nurse. Then the duo go to get food together after school, but Miko isn't paying attention. And that's when Miko realizes, oh shit, she's not in the right line. She realizes she's in a ghost line. But that's when Hana drags her away and scolds her. On their way from the store, they find a lost cat in a box. And Miko sees a ghost in the box too, and it follows them. They put the cat up for adoption on a website and wait till whoever will come for it. Some bald, creepy looking guy shows up and they're not really sure about him, but then a really nice, good looking guy shows up. And Hana's like, alright, oh no. Miko refuses to hand the cat over to him because she can see all of these ghosts around him. So instead, she gives the cat to the guy who looks like he just got out of jail. But what Miko doesn't understand is that this decision will later come back to haunt her. Miko gets on a train, and that's when she sees another ghost with 3 heads on it. She reaches for her stop, and that's when the ghost gets off of the train. But Miko decides to stay. I mean, well, could you blame her? Despite getting off at the wrong train station, she still gets to the eatery before Hana. And it's at that eatery where she meets a guy with a ghost girlfriend who's very territorial. The ghost catches Miko staring at her man and comes over to mark her territory, just like Sakura and Ino fighting over who gets Sasuke. Except Miko is absolutely not interested in this guy. She gets out of the situation by quickly opening up a video of a famous wrestler, and she convinces the ghost that Miko is not trying to steal her man. So she lets her go. Hana shows up just as the guy tries to riz Miko for her number. She ignores him, and that's when the guy's real girlfriend comes in, and Miko sees that this chick has a bunch of dead guys following her too. Later, Miko finally gets some prayer beads, but when she realizes that Hana is always in danger, she gives her some of her prayer beads. Taking a shortcut, they go through an alley full of ghosts, and Miko starts to get nervous, but then she notices that the ghosts are running away from them. Oh, the prayer beads are working! And she happily enters the alley. But her joy is short-lived because she runs into this guy, a ghost with a chain around the neck. And he doesn't care about beads. He says one word, and Miko's beads break. Hana wants to go back to the shop where they got the beads, but Miko refuses because she can see the ghost. She stops Hana from coming into close contact with it until they leave the alley. The scene changes, and we see this girl. You remember her, right? Miss High and Mighty from episode 1. She's stalking this old lady shop owner, and we find out why. Miko and Hana show up in front of the seer to buy some stronger prayer beads. She tries to scam the two girls, something basic, but as soon as Miko puts it on, it snaps. And that's when we learned that the old lady is really not a scammer. She's actually a seer called the Godmother, and she can see a black haze following Miko. She then decides to help her for real and gives her some much stronger prayer beads. The old lady gives her her prayer beads, much more powerful beads, so shiny that they make the Dragon Balls look like they don't shine at all. And she wants to help them so much she doesn't even charge them for it. But as soon as Miko tries to put it on, the ghost screams again and the beads break. So Miko decides to not buy any more prayer beads, but when she turns around, she then realizes the chain guy that was following her is now gone. Okay, I don't want to see this guy, so I'm gonna avoid getting hexed by Chain Man and do something very simple. Miko already has the eyesight, which means she can avoid hexes that ordinary people can't. While we don't know exactly why the chain ghost guy was following her, I do have a theory. He followed her because she stuck her head into his body. I mean, I would be offended too if some random nosy kid was sticking their nose into my business. The problem with our girl Miko is that she's a little too kind for her own good, because the minute I see something that is not good for me, I'm just gonna turn around and leave. In this instance, the minute she saw the ghost in the alley, I would have told Hana, oh look Hana, there's a bunch of spiders. Let's go a different route. Because did you know Hana hates spiders with a passion? So we could have avoided the alley. I would have come up with any excuse to go back to that other shop with a different route. Anything, my stomach hurts, I need to poop, anything. Because since I'm not sure the prayer beads work, I'd rather wait until a really dire situation comes along before I mess around and find out. So I'm gonna try to avoid it as long as I can. But Miko's not like me, she decides to be brave and enter the alley. But even after entering the alley, there's still an opportunity to get away. Which brings me to my second problem with Miko. She freezes too much. I know seeing a ghost is terrifying, but when your life's on the line, your fight or flight response will be the quickest thing you got in your arsenal. We still don't know how to fight these things, so what I'm gonna do is not only ignore it, but I'm gonna run away as fast as I can. Because if avoiding the alley doesn't work, as soon as I see the chain ghost that other ghosts are avoiding, I would call to Hana and tell her, hey, let's race to the end to see who gets there faster. Hana's already ahead, so if she starts running with the 2 prayer beads on her hands, she'll be safe. I, on the other hand, only need to avoid the chain ghost while running to be safe, because all the other ghosts are already avoiding me, and with that, I would successfully avoid getting hexed by the chain ghost, and that would stop my prayer beads from breaking in the first place. Miko and Hana go to a shop to get some food, but then Miko sees a ghost cashier, which she successfully ignores and goes home to watch more horror movies with her brother. That doesn't sound great for her psyche to do that, but anyways, she decides to go grab a late night drink from a vending machine. But when she gets there, her coins fall on the ground. She bends down to pick it up because hey, who's gonna leave some loose change? When she stands up, she sees a tiny old ghost. And that's when things get weird. She picks it up and it falls again and rolls away. She follows it until it turns into a curve, and when she turns, there's a giant old ghost with 2 tiny ghosts waiting for her. She tries to ignore the ghost and reach for her coin, but this one isn't giving up. So it gets in really close and breathes on her. As soon as Miko smells him, tears fill her eyes. But luckily for her, a bird swoops down and grabs the coin from both of them. Using that as an opportunity, she runs away from the ghost, pretending to chase the bird. She gets home safe and sound, but her brother's not happy that he doesn't have the soda that he wanted. The next day, the brother follows Miko after school because he thinks the reason for her bad mood is that she's dating someone. So the brother sneaks into the bathroom to confirm that she doesn't have a hickey. But what he didn't know is that she was alone with another ghost in her bathroom and was just looking for a way to leave. And she is thrilled when he opens the door and offers to wash his back. Anyways, next day Miko gets ready for school. But as soon as she comes to join her family at breakfast, there's a giant, disgusting ghost at the table. And when she's about to start eating, the ghost licks her food and she drops it. Yeah, I wouldn't eat ghost spit either. She goes to grab her pudding just as her mother and father say goodbye to her. Then she takes the pudding and drops it in front of a picture. When the light comes up on the picture, we then find out the picture is that of her father. Yeah, he's dead. The man has been living in the house with them every day and it's actually been a ghost. They talk a little bit. He says sorry for eating her pudding. She replies back and sees him disappear. Meanwhile, the weird stuck-up girl from episode 1, the stalker chick, she finally approaches the godmother woman and asks to be her apprentice, but she refuses. Who rejected? But the godmother gives her some prayer beads and sends her on her way. As she walks, she sees the silhouette of a ghost, and that's how we learn that Miko isn't the only one who can see ghosts. And by the way, the girl's name is Yuria. But unlike Miko, who started seeing ghosts a few days ago, she's been able to see ghosts since she was a little child. She believes her talent for the mystic arts will take her to the top of the world, and that's why she wanted to learn from the grandmother. She goes back to the woman's shop, but she learns that the woman has gone back to her hometown because she had discovered the limits of her powers. And then a man informs her that Miko and Hana were her last customers, and she believes they may have even greater mystic powers than the godmother. So Yuria finds Miko and Hana and spots Miko stopping Hana from running into a ghost. From then on, she begins to think that Miko sees the same world that she does. At school, Yuria confronts Miko about her ability to see the supernatural, and Miko super stylishly, I gotta admit, avoids answering the question. But then she realizes something. While Yuria can't see little ghosts, she can't see the more dangerous ones. And that puts Yuria in danger because she thinks she can see everything there is on the other side. Yuria thinks Miko is underestimating her and decides to show how powerful she is with the prayer beads. She pulls it out and tries to use it, but it snaps. And Miko uses the opportunity to practice a wrestling move she learned on Yuria because she can't think of any other way to get them out of this mess that Yuria put them in. So she chokes Yuria out. But that's not how it ends for Yuria. She wakes up and accuses Miko of trying to kill her. Miko tries to explain but then decides not to. She apologizes and tells Yuria to try avoiding the little ones if she can too. But Yuria ignores a warning, thinking that Miko is threatened by her. So instead of becoming friends, she promises that she would make Miko pay for embarrassing her. After school, Miko runs into an old lady suffering from amnesia. But because she's been seeing too many ghosts, ghosts. She thinks the old lady is a ghost until it touches her, which freaks her out, but then she's like, oh, thank God, it's a real human being. She helps take the woman home, and the woman's daughter decides to give her a gift. While they wait, a ghost shows up mumbling numbers, but when Miko tries to run away, the old lady with amnesia holds her with a very strong grip. The ghost tries to whisper the number to the old lady too, and Miko gets an idea. She writes the number that this ghost keeps saying over and over on her phone and shows it to the lady. As soon as she does this, the lady seems to remember who she is. She walks straight to her old safe, puts the digits in. The safe opens, and she takes out a comb that her late husband gave her. And a crazy thing happens, guys. She calls the daughter by her name and asks her to make dinner. And just like that, her amnesia is gone. Later, Miko and Hana head to an ice cream shop, but on their way out, Miko sees a big ghost and says they should go in another direction. Hana gets home, but on her way out, her lights start to flicker. Outside, her neighbor's dog won't shut up, and through the eyes of the dog, we see there's a giant ghost following her. It's so big, it makes all the other ghosts run away. And that's not all. It grabs and eats one of the ghost babies and makes sushi out of it. And that's where we learn that Hana's aura is so strong that it roasts small ghosts just like a bug light. And the big guy follows her and eats all the little ghosts. Her aura ebbs and flows based on how much food she eats. A little later, Hana sees a boy crying and does a very brave thing. She goes into a haunted house, finds this dog, and after finding the dog, she goes to Miko. But when Miko learns that Hana went into a haunted house, she abandons their movie date and instead takes her to a powerful shrine. Miko can see the spirit following Hana, and she knows it's bigger than it was. Then when she saw the previous day, they enter the shrine and they head to the prayer point and pray using coins. But when Miko turns around, Ghost is still there, but something's different. Behind the ghost, she sees two small spirits dressed in white, and that's when things start to get interesting. One of the spirits claps its hands, just like Toto from JJK. As soon as it does, the two hands of the ghost just explode and fall off. The ghost screams, but the two ghosts aren't bothered. They raise their hands and fold it into a fist in the air, and suddenly a gust of spiritual pressure like gravity or something pushes the ghost into the ground, forming some kind of a cage. And Miko notices they're trying to destroy the ghost. Miko, thinking they're winning, gets super excited and starts cheering for them. But as soon as she starts cheering, the ghost successfully splits the two small spirits in half and comes out of their invisible cage. It eats the remains of one, all the while as Hana ignorantly takes a picture of all of them in the background. And Miko at this point is about to give up and lose hope. And that's when a bigger, way bigger spirit in white shows up. It grabs the ghost's mouth with its giant hands and eats the ghost. Miko is so surprised she doesn't know whether to thank it or run away. But before Miko can fully process, the two small spirits that had been torn into earlier rematerialize. They start talking in a language that she doesn't understand, but she hears one thing, and it was the phrase 3 times. And she doesn't know what it means. Yuria sits in front of her mirror and plans her revenge against Miko. In school, Hana shows Miko their picture and her new passion, photography. She thinks because their picture is trending, she is a great photographer. And that's when Miko decides to be the bad guy to stop her from putting herself in danger while trying to take pictures. But before she can, Yuria shows up and starts her revenge. Her plan is to become friends with Hana. What an evil little shit. Yuria praises Hana's photography and goads her into following her into exotic spots where they can take more pictures. Yuria leads them to a secluded haunted tunnel because she wants to see Miko demonstrate her power. The problem is Yuria reads everything Miko does way too much, even when Miko isn't doing anything spiritual, and she forces Hana to stay even when Hana gets afraid, although she can see the ghosts coming. As soon as Miko finishes posing for a picture in the tunnel, she says, okay guys, let's go, but that's when her worst fears come true. A ghost way worse than all the small fry around show up. Miko stops Hana from running into it, and that's when it grabs one of the ghosts around and eats it. But Yuri, not being able to see the bad guy, thinks that Miko is using her psychic powers to exorcise the ghosts, which makes Yuria go into hero worship mode on Miko super hard. Yuria tries to copy what Miko does, but none of it works. Eventually, Miko is forced to move to save Yuria from the ghost. So she pulls Yuria and Hana close to herself, and just before the ghost attack reaches them, its head gets blown off by a powerful light. And Miko turns around to see the same two small white spirits. All the other bad ghosts disappear in front of these two small white spirits. And that's when Hana finally sees some reason for them to not go any further, but before disappearing for good, the two white spirits raise their fingers and says, 1. Okay, it's great that Miko's guardian angel saved the day, but if I were in her shoes, I would have stopped the evil ghost from attacking us way before the guardian showed up. Here's how. Taku no Jutsu, that's how. This entire mess they find themselves in is all thanks to Yuria and her insecurities. Yuria thinks Miko is hiding her abilities. She's delusional. She decides to put them in a life or death situation where Miko is forced to show her hand. Now, to be fair, this is partly Miko's fault. I know it's harsh, but it's the truth. Miko could have avoided Yuria's insecurities by simply not trying to carry everything. She's done it with Hana because she thinks Hana can't handle the smoke, and now she's doing it again with Yuria. If I were in her shoes, I would call Yuria over and have a heart-to-heart with her. Nothing gets better by simply sweeping it under the rug. This was Miko's first mistake. She never explained why she choked Yuria. Instead, she just said, sorry. If I were in her shoes, I would take the time to explain why I had no other choice, and that I can see ghosts that you, Yuria, cannot see. Yeah, this might take some convincing, but not as long as you think. The human mind is hit with almost 11 million bits of information per second, and it's able to process up to 50 bits of this information really quickly. So even if Yuria's brain is slower than the average bear, she should be able to understand what I'm saying eventually. As long as I keep repeating it again and again and again, eventually she'll get it. And that's why, ladies and gents, Talk no Jutsu is the greatest jutsu known to every protagonist in anime history. Anyways, once I have the heart-to-heart with Yuria, she's gonna lose the need to compete with me all on her own. And once she loses that, there would be no need to put us in such a dangerous situation. And then I don't have to rely on the hope that spirits I don't know may or may not show up to help me. And in doing that, I would stop the attack from ever happening. I wouldn't even go to the tunnel in the first place. Miko and her brother go shopping for her mother's birthday. She goes into the changing room and they try on the dress they picked, but then she meets a ghost inside the room and decides to wear the clothing she put on and leave because she's too scared to go back into the room and change again. They get on the train to head home, and that's when a ghost hangman shows up. He starts using his axe to cut through everyone sitting on Miko's row, all the while as her brother sleeps on her arm. But before he gets to Miko and his brother, he finds what he's looking for, a ghost that is hiding in a woman's body. And just like Sam and Dean Winchester, this ghost does his thing and drags it out of the woman and stuffs it in a bag. And after that, he slices through Miko, but she manages to keep a poker face on. And when people start getting off of the train, he turns his attention away from her. Later, Miko and Hana go to visit their former class teacher in the hospital, and there Miko sees a small form circling her teacher's stomach, and she doesn't know what to do. So she tells her to be careful around the stairs and to not carry heavy stuff, and her concern convinces their teacher to spill some beans, and she says she's lost a baby before. But as she talks about it, that form around her stomach changes into the shape of a baby boy, the spirit of her lost son. After they leave, Miko says goodbye to Hana, and on her way home, she thinks about why she was given this ability. Eventually, she forgets about it and goes home. The next day, Hana and Miko are having a casual conversation when their new teacher shows up, and you won't guess who it is. Yep, it's this guy, who calls himself Zen. Miko remembers him as the guy with many cat-like ghosts. As soon as he shows up, Hana starts to feel hungry. A ghost climbs up their window and stares at him from outside, and Hana can't remember who he is, but at lunch, she buys more food than usual. Anyway, Miko waits for Hana to buy more bread as Zen passes by. One look at him and anyone can tell he's bad news. But Miko sees a lot more than everybody else. She sees these ghosts leaving prints on the walls and slashing through it. She runs away from the window before his eyes can meet hers. She goes to the bathroom, and that's when she comes face to face with a poop ghost. It literally comes out of the toilet. She plays it off and ignores it by pretending to leave the toilet because there's no tissue paper in there. Aha, smart girl. By the time she gets to the next one, she finds Yuria inside eating her lunch. They go out together and Miko goes over her plans to protect her friends from their new homeroom teacher. But as soon as she looks up at him, a ghost appears beside her and commands her to not look at him before disappearing again. Yuria, Hana, and Miko all go to a fun haunted house. They go in together, and while Hana is freaking out, Miko and Yuria have seen way worse, and they are so unfazed. But that is until they run into ones that can move, and they get chased by a man with a butcher knife. And Yuria does get scared because she didn't expect that there would be anyone that could move. After they're chased around a while, Miko realizes these are not real ghosts, and she doesn't have to pretend to be scared of them. And for the first time in a long time, she screams in joy. She's supposed to be scared, but she is so happy that she can just scream because she can finally express herself. The group finally reaches the end of the fun haunted house and get their tickets to get some free donuts. And that's when Miko finally runs into a real ghost, and she almost reacts to it, except that she notices that Yuria and Hana can see it. All the movable fake ghosts that chase them in the house join forces to give them one final chase. But what they don't know is that the real ghost also followed them. After running, Miko realizes this is the perfect opportunity. So she stops, turns around, and screams at the top of her lungs, "Get away from me!" Although the human actors still chase her, Miko is thrilled that she's been finally able to say something that she's wanted to say to the ghosts ever since she started to be able to see them. Together, they all exit the house, but Miko tells them to get ready to go to a bigger one next time. The scene changes, and we see a woman bringing in food to Miko's new teacher in his apartment. apartment. He opens the door, takes the food, but we see that his hand is bleeding. When she asks about it, he just says, he broke something. As soon as she goes away, he throws away the food. In school, Miko and Hana go to the sports field. Miko wants to use running to feel better, but as soon as she starts speeding up, she sees a ghost that runs faster than her in a split second, while taunting her for being slow. And well, you guessed it, and that's enough to make Miko stop running. And instead, she decides to run together with Hana. In class, they read a novel, but all that Miko can do is focus on the giant monster that is going about the class, telling everyone that looks in the direction of their teacher to stop looking at him. And she realizes it's the same ghost from before, but she gets lost in thought, and that's when her teacher calls her up to read. But when she looks up, he's standing next to her, and together with him is the ghost. Miko freaks out, but she manages to read the passage while stuttering really badly. And just when the teacher seems to recognize her and gets close to her, Hana's stomach saves the day so loudly that Miko uses the opportunity to escape from further scrutiny. Yuria sees this and joins them at the nurse's office. But when she makes a statement about how draining it must be for Hana's life aura to be around her new class teacher, Miko finally realizes that the problem has been the ghosts all along. She tries to talk to Yuria about it, but Yuria is just too dang paranoid to be alone with Miko after her last choking experience. Miko and Hana go to the car park, but there Miko waves at a child while trying to enjoy the peace and serenity of the place, but what she doesn't realize is that it's not a real boy, it was a ghost, and he realizes that she can see him and he attacks her. But just before he reaches her, the two guardian spirits who at this point have sworn to protect Miko are there. They blast him away, Dragon Ball Ki Blast style. He attacks again and takes down one of the spirits, but the other one blasts him directly in the head and causes him to phase out. And before they disappear, the spirit turns to Miko and says, 2. And that's when Miko finally understands the spirits blessed her with protection for 3 encounters, and she's already used up 2. Elsewhere, we see Miko's teacher remembering his tragic past. As a child, he had a doting and borderline insane controlling mother. She never let him go to any of his friends' parties and would criticize him for getting scores like 98 out of 100 because she didn't expect him to fail 2 questions. It was pretty rough. After school, Miko teacher on his way home and suspects he's been killing cats. And she is convinced this is a supernatural problem, and she's gonna deal with it in natural ways without the aid of her guardian spirits. And she decides that once she sees him doing something suspicious, she's gonna call the cops. Because once he's out of the way, she finds him in an alley about to cover a small cat with his hand, and she screams at him to stop. The cat runs to her and she runs away with it, but then it slips out of her hand and darts across the road, and Miko can't get there in time. But that's when her teacher shows up out of nowhere to save it. And then he has another flashback. His mother killed a stray cat he adopted because she thought it was trying to share his attention with her, and he was keeping secrets from her. Anyways, the teacher gets hospitalized after being hit by the car, and when Miko comes to visit him, they bond, and she realizes he's not a bad guy. He's been searching for the cat killer in his area because he always found sick and dying cats, and that's why there's so many cat ghosts around him. After Miko learns what really happened to her teacher's first cat, she starts to understand him a little better. She goes back to the hospital room and confronts the ghost of his mother and tells her to leave him alone. The ghost chases after her and she runs into a corridor, but as soon as the ghost tries to get her, her guardian angels show up again and blast away the ghost. It tries to flee and go back to the side of her son, but Miko isn't letting it get off that easy. She follows the ghost in and lets her guardians finish the job, and the ghost disappears out of existence. They raise their third and final finger, signifying the end of their promise, and they mumble some words before disappearing. Okay, look, I love these ghosts, but if I was Miko, I would have taken out the ghosts with my fight fire with fire technique. Here's what I mean. The fact is that Miko is currently relying on spirits to do her dirty work. And look, you can either get rid of it with spirits like she's always done, or you can use another ghost to fight it. In history, before civilization and even till now, mankind has always been known to settle his fights with his fists. Might is right has always been the law of the jungle, and just like the animal kingdom, human beings are very territorial. And you want to know who else is territorial? Spirits. In the case of Miko's teacher, this ghost is powerful and very protective of her son, but it doesn't mean she's the strongest. I just need to find a ghost that is stronger than her. Now, since the ghost is attached to Miko's teacher, all Miko needed to do was to take her teacher to where one of those strong ghosts would be lurking. The haunted tunnel, the train, any of them. Take the haunted tunnel, for example. As soon as they get there, the big boss of the tunnel would come out to find out who is encroaching on his territory. The teacher's ghost would want to stop all other ghosts from looking at her beloved son. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Ghost Royal Rumble 3. The two ghosts would fight off against each other. All I gotta do is to convince the teacher to leave with me. The ghosts will fight till one of them is gone. And ideally, the teacher's ghost will be the one that gets eaten, which means I get to keep my spirit guardians for a little longer in case advice I needed, and the teacher and I get to return back to civilization. Yuri and Hana show up at the hospital room, and while they're discussing, the teacher apologizes for making them worry about him, and he promises that he'll be fine, and as he speaks, all the cat ghosts around him that apparently kept him safe from his mother's ghost all along turn into bright lights and fade out. After he gets discharged, Miko gives him the cat he saved to take care of. Back at his apartment, he takes Miko's advice to set himself free, quite literally, and talks to his owner that keeps bringing him food every day. And he tells her to stop because he just throws the food away. Turns out she had some bad plans for him, but he's been able to escape them. And he also manages to fish out the cat killer and electrocutes him with a stun gun. Miko decides to visit the shrine and say thank you, and she asks the wrong person for advice on what to bring to a shrine as a present. As soon as she gets there, the spirits show up, but when she gives them candy, they get super pissed. She tries to give them money, but that makes things worse, and things escalate and the spirits get closer and closer, and the giant one starts changing into a ghost proper, and other dark figures start showing up, and just when they're about to touch her, Miko opens her eyes. The shrine visit was a dream, and she gets ready for school and heads out. She can still see them, but she has learned how to ignore them, and even though she doesn't know how or why she got the ability, Miko decides that it's better to take one day at a time. And that's the end of the anime, but I have one question for you. What would you do if you started seeing ghosts? Let us know down in the comments.